Hey everyone, I'm Sherry, mother-daughter Stampin', and I'm back today with another technique. With this card that I made on the flowers, I used a white Emboss resist technique with sponging. So anyway, it was a lot of fun. It's really easy, and let's go ahead and try some of the different flowers. The stamp set that I used on this one is Mixed Bunch. I used this flower and I'm going to use this one. So let's take, we need Versamark ink, and I just stamped these on Whisper White cardstock. I already did one. I don't know if you can tell. We have to heat emboss that yet. But let's just ink it up, get a lot of the Versamark on here, and I'm going to stamp it up here. Push it down good so you get a good stamping impression. Right, now we're going to take your white embossing powder, and I like to just take a scrap paper, and we're just going to pour the whole thing over here. Pour it off. Just try to stamp any extra off. Okay, if you can see it, it's still white on white, so it's still not going to show up real well. Our heating emboss tool. Start it up first, let it get a little bit warm. Then we're just going to start embossing. And as soon as it starts getting glossy, then you want to move it around. Alright, let me bring it up to the camera a little bit closer. Maybe you can tell. But when we start putting the ink on is when it really comes out. Now we're going to go to the sponging. On these flowers I used Raspberry Ripple. And then I sprayed it with a frost, which you can get on our clearance rack right now. But that's what gave kind of that shiny effect to it. On this one, let's try Elegant Eggplant. Just take, let's get some scrap paper. Get some of the ink on your sponge. Do a little bit off on your paper. I would do it lightly in the middle and then come around the edges, and it's okay to get outside of the edges this time because we are going to stamp it out after we're done, and then you get a little bit of color on the edges instead of white. As you can see on the one in this card, around the edges it is the primrose, or the Raspberry Ripple versus white on the edges. So I do it lightly at first, and then you can come back if you want it darker. You can make it darker. The darker your ink, the more you want to use your scrap paper to get some of the ink off, because it can get kind of streaky. I like to have it a little bit darker around the outside, around the edges, and maybe around the middle. Notice how the white really shows up now. Alright, for our next one, let's use Crushed Curry. It is a bright yellow, but it's not as dark of a color as our Elegant Eggplant. Because you can always add to it, but you can't get it, take any of the ink off unless you start all over again. So we'll basically do the same thing. Start darker in the middle. This is how I like it. You can play with it and see how you like it the best. Notice how the white embossing just really pops out. Now, the next step is I take either a Kleenex or a paper towel. We're just going to wipe over this and get as much of that ink off as Embossed Resist. the embossing is resisting ink. This particular one has a punch that we're going to use. It's the Blossom Punch. I'll have to look that one up. So that is what we're going to use next. Here's your punch. And just release it on the bottom. Line it up and punch it out. And I like to do it from the bottom so I can line it up. Get it where you want it. Punch it out. There you go. Okay, get it again where you want it. And punch it out. It's just that easy. Now we have a purple elegant eggplant crushed curry. On the ones I had before, your raspberry ripple. This one is a little bit lighter because I did use that frost white spray on it, which we're going to do with these two right now. This is just a shoebox lid that I'm going to use just to protect my work area. I'm going to use this spray on one of these spritzer bottles, Stampin' Up! Spritzer bottles. I've added alcohol and then added a couple drops of the frosted white on here. Shake it up good, and then it's always a good idea to label it or you'll forget what you have in there. Just take a couple of sprays just to get some of the gloss. You let it dry. Now because it is with alcohol, it'll dry faster. It does start to curl a little bit like these did, but that's okay. I mean, it looks real. Flowers aren't flat, so I like it a lot. Anyway, it's a pretty simple technique. It's fun to try with some different colors, and as it dries, you'll get to see the sparkle on it. You notice it does make it a lighter color. That one has quite a bit of sparkle to it. It's a pretty simple card. I do have directions for it on my blog, motherdaughterstampin.com. If you'd like to know how to make this particular card, but just try it out. Have fun with it. Thanks for coming by. See you next time. Bye.